Hey. That's not it. Hello. My name's Mitta, and this is Mitch.
Hey.
And this is the AudioBoi Podcast. This is episode 1, yeah?
Yeah, episode 1.
Hectic.
Yep.
So wild. Well, so our aim here, we're just going to talk audio, things we like.
Nerd stuff.
Yeah, nerd stuff, gear stuff.
Yep.
Anything recording studio based, yeah?
Yeah, music
Cool.
production techniques.
Cool. Do you want to tell me what you did last month?
All right. Do we need to mention sponsors?
Oh, yeah, we should probably mention that. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
probably.
So first one, Tommirock Studios, where we are right now in their lovely Tommirock podcast space. My room's actually next door. We'll give you guys a look at that later on. And our other sponsor is Musos Corner,
Yes.
which we are very grateful for. Thank you, Musos. Been supporting us for a long time, and I am a very loyal customer of theirs for a long time. So thanks, guys. We love you. Cool. Tell us what you did last month, Mitch.
I went to Namm.
Yep.
Over in the States.
Yep.
It was a huge thing.
So
Like,
we
it was
don't have to
amazing.
explain what Namm is, but
Absolutely
it is
not.
just a big gear conference, right? Like,
Yes.
that's the whole point of it. It's just a big nerd out fest
Yep.
for people to meet manufacturers, to talk about like new products. Yeah. It's mainly a new product showcase.
It's a showcase for all the new gear. Obviously, I was in the audio side of things. There's a big instrument hall as well.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay,
So
cool.
it's everything to do music.
Oh, so it's all music stuff.
All music
Yeah,
stuff. Drums,
yeah.
like all the band stuff that you get in the States. Like school band,
Yep.
like trombones and shit.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, so
Yep.
I was over there working for a company called Z&H.
Yep.
Who are a pretty exciting company. We can talk about them another time.
Yep.
And yeah, got to basically see all the new gear
Yep.
that's coming out.
Yep.
And we also got to just meet YouTubers
Yeah.
and other content creators in this space,
Yep.
which was amazing.
Yeah,
like
cool.
just to be able to meet those people that you've watched online a lot.
Yep.
Pretty cool. And then I got to go to some big studios over there too.
Yeah.
So up in North Hollywood, got to go around and check out a bunch of spaces up there and see what's happening in the industry there where things are happening.
So you got sent there by Z&H
Yeah,
to be their product rep, yeah?
for one day. Yeah, I worked in their booth for a day, and then I got to just do my own thing for the
I
rest
was
of the week.
wondering, like, how much of your day, like, do you have to talk about real specific, like, does someone come up and go, tell me about the components in this fucking thing?
No one's that nerdy. I know I'm that nerdy.
Okay, cool.
Or,
so
to be fair, some would
Right.
be like, oh, is it all discrete components?
Yeah,
Is it
okay,
hand
okay.
soldered? All that kind of
so
stuff.
you've got to have that knowledge.
Absolutely.
But most people are just, how close is it to a 1073?
Yep.
You know, can I make my mixes better with it?
Yep.
And blah, blah, blah. But,
Yep.
and you saw, like, people bought stuff on the spot, yeah?
Yeah, I sold some stuff.
So how does it
in the
work?
hall.
They come up and they plug headphones in and then they just, like, you've just got a demo track running and they just tweak and stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah, it was sick. And yeah, their stuff's pretty impressive. They got a few key bits of gear, some mastering EQs that are really exciting.
Yep.
Those API style graphic EQs are pretty cool.
Yep.
And they're offering them at a pretty good price. This
They're
isn't
so
a sales
cheap.
pitch for them. They're so affordable.
They're so cheap for what they are.
Yeah. And then and like good quality gear.
Yeah, I compared those, your Z&H, the mastering EQs,
Yes.
with my SSL EQ.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, just to see the vibe. And it's, like, obviously very different.
Yep.
But I was not, like, no part of me was like, the Z&H isn't anywhere near as good as the SSL. They were just different.
Yeah.
You know, which is
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah.
Considering the retail price on that SSL gear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Eye-watering.
Yeah, that particular EQ is like a mastering EQ, so it's very transparent.
Yeah.
I think
Hang on,
you would
let's,
hear
let's get a photo of it up.
Yeah.
What is
you
it?
would hear more grit in an SSL. People think SSLs are transparent.
Yeah.
They are to an extent,
Yep.
but they have grit to them.
100%.
Still.
They have
There's
this.
a transistor
They have a
grit.
very specific grit, which is it helps cut through a mix. It doesn't.
Yes.
It doesn't sink it into a mix like a 1073 does.
No.
It doesn't hide things. It brings stuff forward, which can be super confronting sometimes when you've got something that feels like it's like right in front of your face, like in front of all the other instruments. Z&H, what's it called?
V250
V250.
is their 500 series one.
Yeah, cool. I like the layout of it. I like that it looks like a
SSL.
Well, I was gonna say, well, yeah, like a Harrison, like a Great River, which is based on the SSL. But yeah, the layout, the design here, it's got like
There it is, yep.
4 bands. I think you have to have 4 bands when you're doing mix bus stuff.
Yep.
Like you can get away with 3, but ideally,
need
low
4.
mid, high mid,
Yeah.
you need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the like it doesn't sound like a big deal, but the layout of the faceplate to me is more logical than the SSL.
Yes.
The SSL is kind of like it's convoluted. It doesn't make sense at first look.
Yeah.
Whereas this, I'm not confused by this at all.
Yeah.
And look at that price, man. That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, so Z&H, and then you're with them for one day.
Yeah.
And then you just walk around and...
Yeah, I got to
so
talk to
you
heaps
meet
of
some of
companies.
these like weirdo YouTube strange dudes.
Oh, yeah, we're all weirdos.
Yeah. Dude, you're the most normal one of all.
It's a safe space
Yeah,
over there.
yeah. No, they're all weird as hell.
Yeah.
But yeah,
we're all massive audio nerds,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
so
yeah.
it actually... It was like, oh, I'm with my people.
Yeah.
It's like
Fuck
going
yeah.
to church, mate.
Yeah,
like, you know
okay.
what I mean? Like, it's like we're just there. Like, we're all there. We're all there for the same thing.
Was it intimidating?
No. It wasn't intimidating at all. Like, as I said, it just felt like being home.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like when you meet your fellow audio nerds,
Yeah.
that vibe just times 1,000
It's
because
funny
everyone's there.
because
Yeah.
when you, me, and Tom first started hanging out, and then like we'd go to dinner, like
Yeah.
the three of us, and then all of our partners would be like, "Are you guys shooting a podcast right now?"
Yeah,
because we'd
yeah.
just be sitting there like talking about like gear or like how excited we are about really specific nerdy shit that
Yeah.
people don't understand. But yeah, dude, that's cool. And so you hung out with Nick. I've met Nick, Panorama Mastering.
Oh yeah, a big shout out to
Shout out
Nick.
Nick, yeah, legend.
Nick, man,
Yeah.
Nick looked after me while I was over there.
Legend.
Took me to some really big studios.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I've had some work done by Nick in the past, and he's fantastic.
yeah. Awesome mastering engineer, great YouTube channel.
Yeah.
All of that sort of stuff. And yeah, look, he took me to some of the studios that I got to go see. Went to some parties like over there. Basically, different companies will host parties, and they will show like it's a way to showcase what they're doing and whatever. And, do their sales thing. So, yeah, we got to see some really specific. We got to see one place that was called Just for the Record. That was probably the most eye-opening studio over there.
Oh, that's a recording studio?
Yeah, recording studio. Just for the record.
The record.
Yeah.
And so tell us about this. What's
in-
the go?
North Hollywood. So they do everything there. They do tracking, mixing, Atmos,
What am I looking at?
mastering.
What's this? This is a retail store? Oh, this is New Zealand. Okay, so this is
yeah.
in NoHo, you said?
NoHo, yeah.
Oh, cool.
I'll wait to pull it up.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
Oh,
the
so
place.
it's kind of like an all-in-one stay. Yeah. Is it like do you stay there or is it?
I don't know if you can stay there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they have residency there. I don't.
Yeah,
I
right.
didn't
And so
see
this
anything
is
like
the
that.
artist they work with.
Yeah, huge stable of artists. I think
Poppy and fucking.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
I think they'd just done
Snoop
maybe.
Dogg.
They'd just done the mastering,
Charlie
the
Gambino,
Atmos
Taylor
for.
Swift.
Yeah. They'd just done the Atmos for maybe Doja Cat,
Yep.
and definitely we heard some stuff from maybe a Billie Eilish
Okay.
record. Or,
Atmos mixing.
yeah,
I've
yeah.
got beat in my bonnet about Billie Eilish lately, but I'll
That's
get
okay.
I'll get onto that later.
Yeah.
Later. It's just pissing me off.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, amazing setup.
Yeah.
Not as big rooms as you would expect.
I want to talk about that. So
Yeah.
this whole idea of like big rooms in big studios is on the way out.
Yes.
For sure. I mean,
Yes.
studios are closing left and right. If you're not in the studio business, you might not be aware. But if you work in a studio, you know that they're closing all over the place. Like America, Australia.
Yep.
The cost of rent's too high. The cost of low-end gear for people to record at home is getting lower and lower. So it's just easy for people to do that at home. So again, reasons for studios closing. Rent is out of control. Cost of living is out of control. Like there's so many reasons why. So it's a bit of a thing I'm trying to battling against. People come in and they're like, oh, I'm expecting a 400-foot room. I'm like, yeah, where's your 400-foot budget?
Yeah.
That's all good. You want that stuff, but no one's willing to pay big money for recording. So obviously the spaces are going to get smaller.
Yeah.
So I was the same. When I went to LA in 2009 to do some recording, the place we were at was a fairly decent size. It was in Garden Grove. That was with Steve Everts. But then we went to a few other studios, and I was actually quite taken with how small they were.
Mm-hmm. It's LA. It's expensive there.
Right? And so, tell us about it. Like, what did they say about it?
Yeah, so same deal, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone is going through the same thing. Doesn't matter what country you're in.
Yep.
Rents, as you said, rents are high and all that sort of stuff. So it's either expensive to buy and own the property or to rent the space, whatever. And then look, exactly like you said. Everyone has to work on smaller budgets. Artists have smaller budgets. Even big record, all the majors have a smaller budget to work with as well.
Yep.
So that affects the size of the rooms. So long gone are the days of huge studios everywhere, there will always be a
They
space.
exist, yeah, for sure.
And there was literally a workshop that I went to at Namm. You could go to workshops while you're there as well.
Yep.
And they had like Fabrice Dupont and Rick Beato on the panel and a bunch of other I can't remember everyone else, and forgive me, everyone that was there. But big studio owners, and they were talking about the need for their facilities versus smaller facilities that are being used, and you're always going to have people that want the premium product, and then you're going to want to have the affordable product, and what we're all finding ourselves is where we position ourselves in that, I think, and that's really the conversation, right? It's like, do you want to go to a big budget studio and have big budget prices, or can you condense down your production as an artist or a producer? And everyone just has to realize that that's the game we're all playing. What was surprising to me was this particular facility, their Atmos room and their other B and C rooms, like for production, weren't massive. They weren't much bigger square meterage than these rooms. Maybe they might have been a little bit smaller than this room and the next room. If you combine those two rooms, the square, except for that main room.
Obviously,
the A room with the
rooms.
That's the Atmos room there.
Wow. Where's the Atmos set up?
They're behind the panels. It's very clever. Yeah, they're behind. They're in the acoustic panels.
What are they? What speakers?
It's all PMCs.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
Fuck it out.
Every room is PMC.
For those of you who don't know what PMC speakers are worth, let's
Yeah.
have a look at the retail price.
The Atmos room, I have to say, was exceptional.
Fuck. All right. So it looks like you're going to be spending 10 grand per speaker. Oh no, per pair of speaker. Yeah. And how many you need? 7.2.4.
7.2.4 or 0.6. Yeah.
So that's
depending on what they're doing. I
13?
think they might have 0.6.
Is that 13 or 7.4.6?
Yeah, they might have 6.
So
or
is that
4.
somewhere between 13 and 20 speakers?
Yeah.
Priced at about 5k a piece?
Yeah.
Oh my lord.
Yeah, but you're doing Atmos for Billie Eilish and Doja Cat.
True. That's true.
Yeah.
But also, like, I like seeing this stuff because, like, I'm always arguing people like, oh, fucking recording's so expensive. I'm like, yeah, it's expensive. Look how much the shit costs that we have to buy to listen to this stuff.
Yep.
Like, to do this well, like, how much bullshit I went through with my room treating it. How long it took me. I went through 3 sets of speakers in 2 months.
Yep.
Shitloads of treatment. Spent like $20,000 on speakers. Finally got to the point where I'm happy. But this is the sort of thing that you go through. Like,
here's the thing, right? Budgets might have changed, but our ability to hear things has improved with the speaker quality improving. And what you need to spend most of your money on nowadays is monitoring and acoustic treatment for that monitoring. And that's the difference between a pro studio nowadays. You're getting the best monitoring.
Yes.
And that's what people need to kind of shift focus on.
You're right. Because anyone can buy 1073.
Yep.
You can get any number of clones.
Yep.
You are right.
And you can get any number of plugins.
Yes.
Right? Everyone, like, you got engineers that mix in the box and track in the box. Like, they're mainly tracking everything, through plugins or whatever. Doesn't matter, like, whatever your process is, but the one thing that will never change is that you need high quality
100%
monitoring.
And then the way you interpret that monitoring, right? So, like, yes, you can buy all the stuff, but if you've got butter ears, if you haven't developed, you like that one. If you
Explain what butter is.
Butter ears is just shit ears.
Yeah,
If you can't hear things, he's got butter in your ears. So that was Lachlan coined that one. Well done, Lachlan.
Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Only thing you've contributed ever. What were we talking about? Yeah. Okay. So monitoring and like how that person interprets those things. That's the thing. That's the thing that you're paying for.
Yeah.
But touching on what you were saying about, so budgets are going down, but what we're hearing is coming up. That I think another thing that's happening is that budgets are going down, but expectations are going up.
Yes.
So like you listen to a lot of this stuff, and hey Joel, just walked fast. Hey, talk to you later.
How's it
So obviously like the budgets are going down, but people's expectations of what's possible on those budgets are like going up and up and up. I get so many kids that will send me stuff from home like, oh hey, can you make this sound like architects? I'm like, do you have any idea how much time and effort they put into those recordings? And what you just because you got the architects plug-in and you got the GGD drum triggers, you want to sound like that? Like, yeah, I get it. We can get it to a certain point, but it's just not the same thing.
one rule: performance is king.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right.
All
So
day.
the artist has to be able to do
And
that.
song too.
Yeah, and
that's
song
one thing I
arrangement
didn't
and
appreciate for a
arrangement.
long time.
Yep.
Is arrangement. Arrangement dictates the mix.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you're working on songs either as a singer-songwriter yourself and demoing, or if you're mixing or mastering and you're wondering why you can't get your mix to sound like the latest Sabrina Carpenter track or whatever the fuck, right?
Yes.
It's because your arrangement isn't as
Yeah,
good.
it's a combination of a lot of things,
know,
but probably
and-
your songwriting, your
Yep.
arrangement, your instrument choice.
Yep.
You know, then it's
performance.
your mix choices and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you got on Namm? What else do you got?
Cool. Gear, the
Yeah.
exciting gear there.
Yeah.
The coolest gear there.
Yeah. What was your favorite?
The craziest one for me was this bit of gear from Cranborne Audio.
Oh
Yeah, that new compressor.
Cool. Yeah, hit me with it.
Okay, so it's called the Bricklane.
Bricklane.
It's not officially out yet.
Yep.
I'm trying to get one of these.
Yep.
Maybe a pair.
Cranborne, hook
We'll
Mitch up.
see. Yeah.
Let's go.
Let's
Give
go,
him-
boys.
Give him one. Alright, cool.
Anyway,
it looks real good.
It's cool. So what they're doing is an all analog signal path. They're using PWM compression, pulse width modulation. If anyone knows the Pi compressor, the famous Pi compressor, that's a PWM style compression. There's all these different types of compressors.
This
we
stuff's
know.
starting to get over my head.
Yeah, it's over my head too.
Yeah.
Like it's all you need to know is that you can take this type of compression, PWM, and you can create all the other types of compression, especially once you add saturation. So it has a saturation circuit,
Right.
and then it has multiple choices of styles of compression.
Okay.
But it's all analog.
So is that what this is? This velvet float smash?
Yeah.
Yeah. How's the words, man?
Yeah.
I've been fucking always joking
A
about
lot
this
of-
shit.
yep.
Velvet,
Yeah.
float, smash.
When I did a video, I did an interview with these guys at Namm, awesome dudes.
Yep.
The only major criticism I saw in my comments channel was the naming of them. What are you going to do?
Well,
You know,
the other
you can't
option
call
is
them
1,
11.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Which is fine also.
Yeah.
But that's not as fun.
No,
You know, like
no, they've got to sell something sexy.
I don't blame him for this at all. I think
Yeah.
it's funny
Yeah.
because everyone's got their own interpretation of that.
what
but
that is, yeah.
I'd way prefer to see that. Like, okay, for example, the Soundtoys Decapitator. The bottom of it, you've got the
A-E.
I don't know what
N.
that means.
No.
You know, but I just remember that I like N. So
Yep.
you know, whatever. Like,
Yep.
right. So we move past the threshold and attack. What's stress?
Stress is distortion.
Interesting.
Yeah, saturation and
Interesting
distortion.
choice of words.
Yep.
Whatever. Release. So I'm guessing ultra fast.
Yeah, it can be, depending on the style you pick, it can be ultra fast.
Oh, okay. So the different styles.
The milliseconds will change depending on the style of compression you choose.
Cool.
Because what everyone's got to remember, right? 0.7 milliseconds or 7 millisecond attack time
Yeah.
is different on any compressor.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Just because it says 7 milliseconds
Yep.
doesn't mean it's the same. On an opto and a FET, that's different.
Of course, yep,
Right?
yep.
And people lose sight of that. So
Yep.
anyway, it can be ultra fast, it can be ultra transparent, or it can be the complete opposite of that, apparently.
Yep.
Very cool. The craziest thing for me was that it also has a limiter
Yep.
with look ahead.
Okay, and that's the first of its kind.
Yes, in analog.
in the
Oh,
world?
there has been hardware versions that do it.
Yeah.
But this is the first like affordable one.
Explain look ahead to someone who doesn't know.
So just imagine you want a true Swiss Army knife compressor that can do all the cool things like FET, opto, whatever, bus compression like a VCA or whatever. But then it comes time to mastering duties, and you're going to slap your typical plug-in, be like a, what are you, Pro
L2.
Pro L2. That's probably the standard one. Any other people might have other ones. It'll have a look ahead. So what it'll try to do is look ahead to the signal coming in. You can do this with both analog and digital circuitry,
Yep.
or digital modeling, where you can get it to look ahead at the incoming waveform and then react more transparently or less transparently to that.
So another way of thinking about it is giving the limiter a little window into the future.
Yep.
So it can see what's about to happen, so it can respond accordingly.
Yep, and there's all types of ways to do this with circuitry too, because it's weird.
I
how this
understand
works.
how it works. I understand the use for it. I don't understand how it works. Like how
Yeah.
is a hardware unit able to see? What's in front of it?
It's because it's to do with the way electrons flow.
Right.
It's
This is
so
too much. All right.
nerdy, and it's a
I'm
little bit
sorry
above.
I asked.
It's a little bit above my head
Yeah.
because electrons flow at near speed of light.
Okay.
And so you can get them to do weird shit. It's
All right.
it's just.
I'm not going to pretend to understand that. Let's keep going. So release. What's that say?
So then, and just to finish that,
Yeah.
so what's cool about that limiter
Yeah.
is it also has a clipper stage. So the
Oh shit.
and the stress becomes clipping.
Okay.
So the stress becomes a clipper.
oh,
so
then you turn the thing.
So then you have
That's
true
so cool.
analog limiting and clipping
Yeah.
with look ahead.
Yep.
That can be lightning fast for mastering grade limiting and clipping.
Wow. I need
But
to
in
hear,
analog.
I want to hear what hardware clipping sounds like because
So do I.
I'm a freak for clippers.
Yep.
And I've never used a hardware one.
Yep.
That's
And
sick.
I can only guess that it will sound awesome.
You'd think so.
You know,
Yeah.
we love our hardware here.
Yeah.
And
Well, when
if it does it better than a plug-in,
I don't think I've ever chosen a software over a hardware anything.
yeah.
You know, like I
Yeah.
don't think
If you have a hardware option, it's
Yeah.
often better
Yeah. Okay, so
or often the right choice.
and so what's 60 hertz, 100 hertz? Is that the concentration of the saturation? What does that mean?
No, it's a sidechain
Oh,
filter.
sidechain filter. Yep.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's a high pass
Yep. Cool.
sidechain filter. Yeah.
Opto sync.
So OptoSync is if you put two units next to each other, you don't have to do any goofy shit with 500 series.
No way.
You can get them to link through an opto circuit thing that
How
they
do
have.
how do that physically? How do they connect to each
There
other?
will be a light opto thing.
Oh, from the back into the back.
Nah, from the side into the other side.
Oh, so
or something.
Yeah, cool. That's
I don't
cool.
know where it is on,
All right.
on the actual
That's
hardware
cool.
unit,
I
but
like
yeah,
that.
they sync up to the unit next to them.
That's
and so
cool.
you could have a chain. If you have Cranborne stuff,
Yeah.
you can chain them all together.
And I'm sure that probably works really well in their 500 series.
Yeah, it works in any rack.
Because they've got the summing mixer one. You know about that?
Yeah. They've got the ADAT and the summing, and
500
they've got a couple of different versions of their 500 series racks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This one got really popular. This
The summing one,
Yeah,
the one
the
with the
one-
dials down the
exactly.
bottom. Yeah.
I'm not going to plug any of these shops that. This thing looks pretty out there. Anyway.
Yeah.
So once you lock them together, are they stereo or dual mono?
Stereo.
Not. Can you have them in dual mono?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. Cranborne audio.
Yeah.
Answer that for us, please.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yep.
And then obviously we just got the input output, like the engage,
Yep.
disengage. Yeah. All right. So Cranborne, I'm guessing it's going to be pretty competitively priced because everything they've done is
I think it was $4.99 or $5.99 US.
so nothing.
yeah,
Like that's nothing.
might be $5.99 US.
$500 for a compressor with like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 8
Yeah,
different.
US, we're talking like 700 to whatever. But
Man.
then it depends what Aussie distributors are going to put on top of that. But either way,
It's crazy. Like
It's still good.
Even their preamps, like the Cranborne Pre, the one that
Yep.
everyone's really into.
yep, with the mojo. and
Yeah,
all
I think what do they sell like new in Australia for like $500 or like
Yeah.
600? That's
that.
crazy.
Super affordable.
Yeah, it's really good. Okay,
Yeah.
well, so that's pretty exciting.
It is. That was one of the most exciting things, besides like the Z&H stuff that I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm trying to think of anything else that I saw that was really.
You were surprised
Really
with the lack of
awesome.
Behringer stuff there?
Oh yeah, that's a bit controversial. That one.
Really? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
So I don't know if we need to dive into the
Right.
controversy
Yeah, yeah,
itself,
yeah.
but basically, Behringer released this studio line of products
Yep.
with their 369 compressor.
Yeah, that's the main one.
Sexy bit of gear.
Yep.
Sounds great.
Yep.
You've heard it.
Yes,
Um,
I got one.
Yeah, it's dope. Like, it does the thing that the 33609 does. It's maybe a little bit cleaner.
Yep.
That's fine. Whatever.
Yep.
Sounds sick on drum bus. It's on all my drum bus recordings now.
Everyone should
mixes
go and
now.
look at Mitch's. It was a DIY recording studio, and what was the? It was a. What is it?
I did a couple
369?
of different shootouts
Is
of
it
the Behringer
369?
369. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want a more in-depth review, go
Yeah.
and have a look at what Mitch has to say here. And I
Yep.
think you've got some examples stuff in
Yeah,
there too.
Yep.
cool.
There's sound examples there.
Yep.
Anyway, so they had that. They were talking about some synthesizers they were going to have. They've got a Neve 1073 dual channel thing that they're doing.
Yep.
And none of the studio stuff was there.
Mm-hmm.
And none of the new pedal stuff was there. And then some new synths were unveiled there. But the two of the key synthesizers they were supposed to have on display weren't plugged in and weren't operational. They were just prototypes, which happens at Namm. Like
Okay. Right.
the Bricklane we were just talking about was not operational either.
Okay.
So that happens.
Yep.
But to not have any of your studio products there was
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
It was odd. It was an odd thing.
Yeah.
To not have everything on display.
Yeah.
There as a showcase. And I asked their people there, and they were like, we don't know. And I was like,
What? Okay.
yeah. There was some dudes from Midas there,
Yeah.
like because they've got all their umbrella.
Yeah.
They're a big umbrella
Yeah.
corporation now, Music Tribe.
Yep.
So Midas were there, and I was like, "Where's your Behringer Studio stuff?" And they're like, "It's not here." And I'm like, "Why?" Like,
Okay. All right.
yeah, which was weird. So that was weird to me.
Speaking of new things that I saw, because like often we joke, we have a group chat, Mitch, I, and another friend, where we make fun of things that we see released, like audio gear that is just stupid.
Yep.
Like when people put certain components inside of certain bits of gear that don't need to be there.
Tubes.
You said it, I didn't say it. But
More tubes.
yeah. The one piece of gear that I saw being released recently that I thought, thank fuck, because this is something people actually need, is Audioscape stereo pull tech.
Very cool.
I don't know why the pull tech isn't offered in stereo more often. It's like I've got the retro 2A3, which is a killer. It's like stereo. There's 2 sets of controls.
Yep.
It takes up a small amount of room. Like this, to me, half the reason I spent all this money on this crazy expensive unit is purely for form factor. Because I had 2 warm audio EQs stacked on top of each other, and it's like 12 RU.
Yeah.
It's just so much.
Yep.
And you look at the back of the unit and they're that deep.
Yep.
It's like, why am I giving so much of my rack? And like when you got as much gear as Mitch and I are lucky to have, is real estate is a huge thing.
you start running out of space.
Man, that's why 500 series is so attractive.
Yep.
Anyway, so the only other one I know of, a stereo pull tech, is the rubber bands. And I think that's a passive design.
Yeah.
It's not tube,
No.
which to me is not a real pull tech.
Yep.
So yeah,
It depends who you talk to.
Yes, I
because
know,
some
I
people love the passive version of it
yeah,
better.
good on them.
Yeah. So it's up to you. Yeah.
So
You're gonna get so
is
much
this?
hate.
What did you say?
You're gonna get so much hate.
Oh
this
man,
time.
I'm finished after this. All right, so
Get him.
yeah, I don't give a shit. I'm fucking. This is my opinion. This is my podcast. You don't like it? Keep moving.
Yeah.
So
Audioscape,
look
stereo.
at that. Look like that.
So it's stereo, but not dual mono. Obviously, it's just all one.
Yes.
Whatever you do to the right, you're doing to the left.
I would argue that pull tech's one of the units you don't need to be dual mono. I find
fair.
it more annoying, if anything, that I have to set 2 pairs of controls and they're not dotted, so I can make incremental mistakes.
Yeah.
Whereas this is very cool.
Yeah.
And so for 2.3 US,
That is so.
what
cheap.
else are you gonna get near that?
Nothing.
My retro was 7. Like,
There's one other company that's done a pool tech style thing.
what is it?
Gain Labs one.
Gain Labs 1.
No. Gain Labs.
Oh, the one.
Just type in I think it's called the Empress. Gain Lab Empress. Maybe? Yeah.
Gain Lab Empress.
Sorry.
No,
That's my fault. 'cause
No, I'm super literal. Gain Lab Empress, you said. Is that what you said?
I think so. I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's stereo as well.
interesting.
Yeah.
See, for me, like the way the pull tech looks is a big part of it. I think because I'm spending so much money. Oh, yuck.
Yeah. I didn't love that either. Too convoluted.
If you're listening and you're not watching, you need to Google the Gain Lab Audio Empress.
Yep.
I'm sure it sounds great,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
whoa.
Yeah. It's got to look right. Like we were talking about with those Z&H EQs, right? Like the way it looks and the way it feels and the way
it's
the tool,
important.
it's a tool,
Yep.
right? At the end of the day, all this hardware,
Yeah.
they're tools and you're paying the extra money for hardware for it to look and feel a certain way.
Yes.
And also you want your clients sometimes to know what they're looking at too, or to at least be like, that's a cool, sexy piece of gear. And
This
that
is so overwhelming to look at.
Yeah.
This looks like the inside of a cockpit. That makes me not want
and
to
maybe
use
that's
it.
what they're going for, but I don't want that in my gear either.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's...
I want to just turn dials and it sounds good.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that, like what you're saying about a unit being easy to use is so important.
Yeah.
You know, like
Yep.
the reason I don't ride my motorcycle to work every day is because I got to put on the gear and I put the helmet on. I got to
Yep.
put the thing. I don't use it as much. I
Yep.
just get in the car because it's easy. You
Yep.
know, like it's. Yeah.
Been there.
Anyway, you cool guy too.
Hey?
He's a cool motorbike dude as well.
Yeah, used to be.
Hell yeah, man.
Not anymore. I'm too old.
Hell yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was kind of that.
Interesting.
Yep. Gear-wise, yeah.
All right, cool.
But yeah, that Audioscape. Audioscape are doing cool things. They did have all their stuff on display over there.
Yep.
I didn't get a chance to go over to their booth. It's so big over there.
Yep.
You just can't hit up everything. It's
Yeah,
you're doing so much networking and stuff as well.
Mm.
Yeah, cool. The only other thing I had was to talk about was comparing the industry there to Australia. If you want to chat about that. I don't know if you want to talk about that. Maybe it's too broad.
Yeah.
Or was there one of the questions from maybe we should do
Actually, let's have
one
of
those.
So I had I
do one of them in this one and then
Yep. I put out a thing on my Instagram. Come follow me. Say what's up. And let's have a look at some of the questions that maybe we can talk about. So, all I said was like podcast questions, audio podcast stuff. Right. Lachlan wants a shout out. He's not getting one.
we already gave him one.
Yeah. Nah, lovely Lachlan. All right. What else we got here? Oh, okay. This is a good one. So, Shieldsy wants to know some do's and don'ts for artists to best prepare for a demo track to take to a place like mine. That's really, really good. I like this because it's not something that's talked about often. Do's and don'ts to prepare your demo track. Most bands come in with demos. The ones that don't have demos, the recordings don't go as well. And I can say that confidently and unequivocally.
Yep.
Is that if this is the first time recording your song, it's probably not going to go as well as the third time you've recorded it, or the second or third. I always equate this to chefs in the kitchen. Like, what kind of Michelin star, 5-star chef shows up on the day and goes, "This is the first time I'm going to make this meal. I'm going to fucking..."
Bear.
Yeah, I mean, and look at him. Like, fucking commit suicide. Like, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, what kind of a race car driver doesn't show up to the track on the first day that they've seen that
Gonna
track?
wing it. Yeah.
It's an insane idea. And so to think that you're better than that, or that your song or your music ability is better than all these people that you aspire to be, who I 100% demo the piss out of their stuff over and over and over and over again. Iron it out till all the bullshit's gone and all you're left with is the best version of that song.
Yep.
Okay.
Arrangement is king.
100%.
Yeah.
So, so the best thing to prepare for prepare a demo track. All right. So re-recording the parts a few times, I think, is important.
Yep.
Not sticking with your first version of your performance. You might get something cool, but there's a good chance that you can milk some more out of it. There's a better option out there.
Yep.
Get comfortable with a click track.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're scared of a metronome, you shouldn't be in the studio.
Yep.
Unless you're a very specific type of artist who has never heard a click track in their life or never will, like a folk throat singer. Unless you're one of those types of people.
Certain genres, obviously, like if you're doing crazy psychedelic stuff, or you're doing there's certain genres.
But still, you should have a great sense of internal rhythm in that sense.
Yeah, and you should always maybe try to play to a click track and see where you're at.
100%. 100%.
Drummers out there, please.
Yeah, dude. And there's so many situations where in the studio you're going to need to be locked into a predetermined tempo. So being comfortable with that is super important. Another thing is, this is like a bit of a broader, more holistic thing, but get your ego out of it. Get your ego out of your performance, out of your, out of the band, out of your instrument. I get people come in and it's like, I really want to use this piece of shit practice amp that my dad gave me on my birthday.
It's my sound.
Sick, man. Yeah. Sick. Like, you think people, like I always say this, people are going to go home and go, oh, so stoked Johnny used that 15-watt Cort like fucking combo that his dad gave. No one's going to, they're going to go, the guitar tone is either sick or it's shit.
Yep.
So,
yep.
Yeah,
there's a place for cheap gear. It's in the bin. No. No. Just all bullshit aside. I had a recording session where we used a practice amp in conjunction with their main amp for leads, and it was sick.
Yes.
But just remember,
but you've made a creative decision there.
That's a creative thing. That's not. We were using a very good Messer head and cab. For the rest of the session, right?
Yes.
Like you use the best, and you use what you got, and you trust your engineer.
Yep. Here's another one.
Yeah.
So, when I used to play in a band, a part of practice would be unplugged. So we would sit down and play all of our instruments, all of our electric instruments, not plugged in. So I would be pads on sticks. The guys would be playing electric guitar with not plugged in. The reason for this was it makes your technique better. You're not hiding behind distortion. You're not hiding behind loud drums. You know, you got to make sure every hit, everything you're playing is on point. So often I'll get a band came in. This happened to my last session I had. A band came in, guitarist, bassist, all playing 3 different fucking things. Like there'll be a part of the song, you know, there'll be a dun 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 da 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 da, and guitarist 1 is going 1, 2, 3, 4. Guitarist 2 is going like pull off.
Yeah.
Bassist is playing different notes in a different rhythm, going da 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 da. You know, playing a triplet thing. And I sit them all down and go, "You guys are playing 3 different things. This is fucking insane.
Yep.
Like, what do you think this is going to sound like on a recording?" And the reason they've gotten to this point is because they haven't sat down and paid attention to what the other person's doing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, I'm going to learn my part of the guitar, and I'm just going to go in without thinking, how does this interact with someone else? Am I actually playing the same things as the other people in the band?
Yeah, yeah.
So often it's not. You know what I'm talking about,
Absolutely.
right?
And like, what does that all result in? Like,
Mess, slop,
Yeah.
terrible.
And then on top of that, what do they have to do in the studio to fix that?
Oh, just like
Spend more time.
Compromise, edit,
Yep.
more time, all of it.
Yeah. And so what happens is if you don't come prepared,
Yes.
is you spend more money, more
100%,
time
100%.
in the studio, or more time on your engineer to fix it.
Yep.
Be prepared.
Yep. I worked with
Come
a
in
band
prepared.
recently where, here's another thing to touch on in the same topic is, if you're not able to record yourself at home,
Yep.
and the only way you can record yourself is to come into a studio, it's going to be very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I said, the best bands that I work with are the ones that have a little home recording set up. They're not only practicing their parts, they're practicing recording.
Yeah.
Recording is its own skill. It's like playing an instrument on stage. You can practice an instrument in your bedroom, you can practice on stage. They're very, very different experiences.
Absolutely.
So playing an instrument on a stage and in a studio environment, very different experiences.
Yeah.
There's no excuses. Everyone's got a laptop. Go and get a cheap interface and a cheap mic.
Yep.
Sing into it.
Yep.
Plug your guitar into it. Like, look at your playing under a microscope.
Yeah.
That's the reason without big noting myself, the reason I feel like I'm good in the studio is because I spent so many years looking at my own playing under a microscope.
Yeah.
I would play, look at it back and be my harshest critic and go, holy shit, I'm not that good, hey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to fix up. I'm not on the click here. I'm out here. It feels like I'm playing in time, but I'm really not.
Mm-hmm.
So that was super eye-opening for me. That taught me how to be good at this.
Yeah.
So I think bands that, don't do these processes, don't practice this stuff at home, they come in, first of all, they're shocked because they're like, what? I'm not perfect?
Yeah.
I'm not on the grid? I'm
Yeah.
like, man.
And none of us are perfect.
No one's
ever.
perfect.
Like,
No, no.
you're always going to be slightly in or out of
Yes.
time.
Yes.
But
I'm,
be as
I'm
good as
using
you
the
can
term
be.
perfect loosely. You
Yeah,
understand
yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
Just to clarify.
yeah.
anyone listening.
But so that these are all seemingly obvious things that so many people just skip.
Yeah, and I think they are the right things to focus on before a session.
Yep.
And like, one of the biggest things is like, I think as well, is manage your expectations. What are you going to record this project for? Are you recording it as a hobbyist? Are you recording it as a serious musician?
Yep.
What do you expect to see in that studio?
Yes.
How do you expect to be recorded? Like, if these are things you're not sure about, maybe you should talk to the engineer or the person you're going to. But like, it's about preparing yourself before. And this is a thing, obviously, we know the term. It's called pre-production. And back in the day, albums were made with pre-production budgets, and the producer would sit with the band and produce the band before they even touched the expensive studio. And this is gone. We don't have that budget. Sometimes you guys won't have a producer often, right? So we've got to wear the hat of the producer, the tracking engineer, the mixing engineer. We're doing all those jobs
so
for
does
these
the
people.
band.
And so does the band. It's on them too. It's their responsibility to become their own producer.
Yes.
And do their pre-production.
Yep.
And I'm like, when I have younger bands, I am sending them like a pre-production checklist.
Yep. You can still pre-produce with a producer.
Yeah.
Either factor it into your budget or work out a way to do it that suits your budget.
Do a
But-
demo at a studio.
Exactly. But
and
all this
whatever.
like really cheap recording gear has essentially replaced the need for producers.
Yep.
Because you can sit at home now and you can play your song 20 times and you can listen back objectively and go, I can't play this that well.
Yeah.
Or like this part of the song's not that good. And that's what recording is for.
Yep.
Is be critical of yourself.
Yep.
So that reminds me. What were you saying a second ago? You were talking about producers, lack of budget. Anyway, so right.
Yeah, look, what we need to I think in Australia, maybe, I don't know if it's different overseas, but artists, at least the ones we work with here, need to really, I think, change their perspective on what this process is and understand that demoing is part of what happens in the music industry.
Yes.
All
Sorry,
right?
I've just
Educate
remembered.
yourselves.
I've remembered. It was what you were saying about managing expectations. So that's another big one, is that because you've got, you know, all these companies putting out these drum sample libraries, and there's Neural DSP doing like guitar amp sims, it's quite achievable to create a pretty good sound at home. So when people come in and they're just like, oh, why my snare drum doesn't sound like GGD? I'm like, well, that's because it was recorded by the best drummer in the world in one of the best rooms in the world, by one of the best engineers in the world. You know, like
and it's still a sample.
Yeah,
you know,
it's a sample. Like, and then I get other people that be like, why can't I sing like so and so? I'm like, well, that's that person's whole life. You just came from a shift from Woolworths. Like, which is fine. That's totally cool. But don't come after a long day and you're tired and you're not a full-time singer. Don't compare yourself to Adele. You know, it's just not fair on you.
And you don't have to be Adele.
No,
you know,
no.
You just have to be you as
Not
an
at all.
artist. Yeah,
I think we got that one. Thanks, Shieldsy. That was really good.
yeah.
All right, Miles. What can you cheap out on, and what should you spend money on? This is really good, because this is essentially what I talk about all the fucking time.
Yeah, and we've touched on a bit today.
Hell yeah. All right, cool. So let's just make this
This could
simple.
be the, Do you want to make this the last one for this episode, and then we'll
Hell yeah. Yeah, sure.
and
All
then
right,
we'll
cool.
move on to the next episode.
All right,
and then we
sweet.
can keep some of them for the other episode.
Cool.
Sick.
All right, so Miles says, what can you cheap out on, and what should you spend money on? I've actually got a list in my phone, because this is a topic that it was a video that I intended to do on.
Yeah.
But let's make this simple. When you think about recording, if to me anyway, if I'm
Are
thinking
we
about,
talking tracking, mixing, mastering? We're kind of holistic thing, like just in general?
Well, I know Miles records himself at home.
Okay,
so
yeah.
I think we're talking about home studio people.
Yeah,
I don't think
cool.
we're not talking about people owning commercial spaces. This is just the home people. So
Yeah, cool.
So when I think about a recording studio, the computer is the brain. Yeah. The interface is the lungs.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the lungs and the heart.
Yeah.
Everything passes through. It distributes everything.
Yep.
And then you've got the speakers, which are the ears or the whatever. You know, like the way you interpret sound. So I think a lot of problems that a lot of people have is they spend money in the wrong order.
Yes.
So they'll be like, oh, I need the best sounding microphone, or I need the best sounding like preamp, or no. The one I really like hearing is people say, which 1073 should I buy? And I say, what mic have you got?
Yeah.
And they're like, 58 or a SM7B. I'm like, don't even bother, man.
Yep.
What are you doing? Like, I think a lot of these audio companies, a lot of this like social media stuff has a lot to answer for in terms of marketing to people and manipulating people into thinking they need things they don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
We live in a capitalist society. We're trying to sell shit to people all the time.
Obviously. And like, you know, it's obviously very capitalist. It's all about buying and selling. And anyway,
it's cool.
It's fun. It's fun. I get it. So that a lot of people ask me, which 1073 clone should I get? Or which 87 clone should I get? And I say to them, what monitors have you got? And they're like, headphones. Or
what acoustic treatment have you got?
that's the big one, dude. And they're like,
that's my biggest.
I'm going to buy. I had an argument with a guy recently. He's like, I'm going to buy a really expensive condenser. And I was like, what's your room treatment? He's like, none. I'm like, that's going to be atrocious, dude.
Yeah.
It's going to be fucking awful. What you need to do is buy an SM7 and build a little booth for yourself.
Yep.
Like, I think people are sucked into the brands and
this is going to fix everything
100%.
for me. Silver bullet shit.
100%. And I was guilty of this too. When I first started, I would just live on forums and I'd be like, which thing do I need to get? And I just I'd memorize numbers and I'd remember, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'd JR455C chip from the fucking 808. You know, I'd all of it. Like, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So I think, the big one for me is don't get suckered into the UADs of the world.
Yeah.
Don't go out there and buy an Apollo and and an 87 and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's obviously this is going to be super dependent on what you're doing.
And what your setup is at home, like what your space is, where you're recording is important.
I mean, if we're talking about someone who produces dance music as opposed to a folk singer, it's going to be very, very different set of circumstances.
Yep.
But, all right, so as a blanket rule, tell me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
I think you should spend your money on interface / speakers. I think are arguably the most important thing. The speakers, probably number one, actually.
Yeah.
Because what's the
But
point?
if you're on speakers, what do you have to do to your room?
You got to treat it.
You got to treat it.
You gotta treat it.
You got to treat it. And
But that can be cheap.
Yeah,
It
no,
can be
it's
done-
not
it can be-
expensive. Yeah,
no.
guys. Yeah, let's put like so many people freak out when it comes to acoustic treatment. It is cheap
easy.
and it's lightweight to build panels,
Yeah.
and it's easy to hang them.
People freak out because they don't understand the science.
Yeah.
And I don't really understand the science either. People are at me, they're like,
Yep.
what should I do with this? I'm like, dude, I don't know. I
Yep.
just trial and error.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
just work stuff out, and if it works, cool.
I'll clarify this right now. Every single acoustician that says they have the magical mathematical
Yep.
equation to treating rooms is full of crap.
They're lying to you.
They're lying. It's
Yep.
trial and error. Every
Yep.
major studio that's ever been built has been trial and error,
Mm-hmm.
and none of them will. No major studio has ever been perfect. There's always mistakes
Tom
made.
was saying they've rebuilt the uni rooms in town 3 times.
3 times. Yep.
Like, because it's just trial and error.
Yeah,
This
it's-
is the university working with millions of dollars.
Yep.
Anyway, so
Yeah, so-
speakers, I think speakers are number one, because if you can't hear what you're recording,
Yep.
you're essentially poking around in the dark. You're
Yeah.
blind. So like
You
I'll
should yeah.
I'll get sent a lot of stuff where it's been recorded on an 87,
Yep.
and it's a lovely singer, and I'll be like, I say to the engineer, what the fuck is this gross noise coming from this part of the, and they're like, oh, I can't hear it.
Yeah.
Great, cool. So you've just sent me essentially a useless recording because you spent all your money on your mics. You bought this cool vintage pre that's just noisy, by the way.
Yep. Yep.
That like and you can't hear what's coming out of your speakers.
Yeah.
Like, this is so stupid.
Yeah. So it's a tricky thing, right? Because if we're talking spending money on speakers, good money on speakers,
Yep.
not everyone at home is going to have money for good speakers.
No, but I can guarantee you that people at home will spend $1,000 on a condenser, but they'll spend $500 on their monitors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what
That's
money are we
backwards.
really talking then?
Well, I'm not even talking about spending big money. I'm just talking about spending the bulk of your money on your monitoring.
speakers, yeah,
Yes,
on your
because everything else will get upgraded over time.
Yes.
And yeah,
Yeah. Start where it matters.
100%.
Because
dude.
then at least you can hear it.
Yep.
And then you can hear what your 57 or 58
Man,
sounds
if you're
like.
a darts player and your glasses don't work, you're fucked.
Yeah.
Like, it's just stupid. Anyway, so
That's a good analogy.
so speakers first. Interface and microphones. You could argue that you'll hear more results from microphones.
Yeah.
Not you argue.
I would-
It is absolutely true. You'll hear more from microphones.
Preamps and interfaces and
Yes.
conversion are so good now.
Yes.
Even the cleaner, cheaper ones. Even a 2i2 can be okay, especially for singer-songwriters,
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
If we're talking singer-songwriters,
This
we
is-
don't need the top-of-the-line converters.
No.
And conversion has so much less to do with it. The microphone is definitely the next
The
most
microphone
important
is
thing.
where you'll hear your money the most. Is that's why people go out and spend all this big money on microphones, is because they can hear an immediate result.
Yes.
So that can be a good and a bad thing. That's a whole nother topic of conversation.
Yeah.
Where I would be going is speakers, microphones, interface.
Yep.
Just you could switch out depending on what kind of person you are. If you, for example, if you're someone who's doing heaps of synths or heaps of guitar-based stuff, you're not actually recording microphones, I would absolutely buy the interface over the microphones.
Yeah.
See, that's when it gets a bit complicated. Is what are you doing?
Or if you're doing like maybe cabs, like cab IRs,
Exactly, you
maybe
don't really
the
need
interface,
microphones
Yeah,
for
maybe
that.
maybe the interface is then more important.
This is kind of why I would
Definitely.
argue
It's so tricky.
these days that the interface is more
more
important
important than the
because a lot of
microphone.
people are doing things like reamps. And so
Yeah.
once you're recording a signal in, sending
Yep.
it back out again, and then back in again, if you've got a cheap, dirty interface, you're going to be
Yeah.
in so much noise by the end of that.
Wholly agree with that.
Yes, okay.
And then also because if you're just demoing or whatever, you don't need the best mic.
No,
Like
no.
57, a 7B. If you're in an untreated room,
Yep.
a condenser is your worst enemy.
100%.
Let's just get that out of the way as
100%,
well.
yep.
You need like a 7B or something. And that's why those mics exist.
Yep.
Um,
Or you need like some sort of reflection filter booth set up. You just
Yeah.
need to build a little thing.
yeah.
This touches on
Yep.
something that I wanted to mention before, is that you familiar with the term demoitis?
Yeah.
Okay, so demoitis, for people who don't understand, is you record a demo at home and you become really obsessed with those sounds. Like for example, your guitar sound is a shitty mic that you put in front of your shitty speaker, but you just love it, and it works for the song. For whatever reason, for better or worse, you can't get past that sound, and we can't recreate it in the studio. If that has been captured badly through a cheap interface, the chances of using it on a real recording are probably pretty low.
Yep.
But if you've got a good converters,
Yeah.
if it's been captured okay,
Yep.
you can probably use that in the real recording.
Yeah.
Which is why you should go to these lengths to kind of make your demos as good as they can be.
Yeah.
Because I reckon about
As good as they can be.
30% of the time, stuff will end up from the demos on the real recordings.
Yeah.
For me,
Yep.
it just happens.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's, without getting into the nitty gritty,
Yep.
I would work down in that direction.
And if you're guitar based, definitely a way to DI and make sure you can
100%.
DI and capture your mics if
Yes.
you're doing mic stuff.
Yes, because there will become a point where you need to record something at home that gets sent to the engineer to get put onto the recording. So if your conversion's good, if it's captured well, you're good.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But
I
we're
think we'll create socials for people to get in contact with us.
Yep.
If like we'll have an Instagram, we'll have a TikTok or whatever, so that if people have questions, they can come on and ask us. Also, if you want to find our Mitch and ours personal Instagrams, mine is Mitta Norath, Mitta. We'll chuck a link somewhere, and then yours is the DIY recording studio.
DIY recording studio.
Cool.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. And then we'll put socials for the podcast.
Yes.
In the
Yep,
descriptions
in the show links.
and
Yep.
show links
and you can
stuff now.
contact us, and because we want to talk about things that you're interested in too. Like Mitch and I can sit here and talk about our own interests all day, which we do anyway outside of the podcast. But yeah, this is really for us to interact with other people. So if you've got ideas, please let us know.
Yeah, or things that you want to know about or hear us discuss.
Yep.
Absolutely. Hit us up on the socials.
Thank you very much. Super stoked to be here.
Yep.
See you next time.
Dude.
Legend. Fuck yeah.
Cool.